I'm pretty sure that most Battlefield 6 players see the Recon Drone as just a simple scouting gadget. Something that just spots enemies for you and your team. And from my experience, I don't see it used very often in-game. Many players prefer other gadgets, considering the drone pretty useless. But I can confidently tell you, the Recon Drone is one of the most destructive and versatile gadgets in the Recon arsenal. It's useful in almost every game mode and on nearly every map in Battlefield 6, even on Hagental Base. I'd even say especially on this map. Welcome to my channel, my name is Haim, and in this video I'll show you everything I know about this gadget, including a super secret but very obvious technique for infinite drones. Let's start from the beginning. The Recon Drone unlocks at level 10 and doesn't require any additional challenges. You're given one drone at a time, which can be replenished using a supply bag. However, you can't carry more than one drone at once. Replenishing a drone from a supply bag takes 10 seconds. At first I thought having two supply bags nearby would increase the drone's replenishment speed, but then I noticed that this doesn't always work. But then I remembered that each class has a training path, and for the medic it's fire support. As you can see, it includes an ability that increases ammo resupply speed, but it actually boosts gadget replenishment as well. So if the supply bag comes from a medic using fire support, the drone replenishes in just 6 seconds. Unlike in Battlefield 2042, the drone no longer has a maximum range. You can fly it as far as you want. However, this comes at the cost of a battery system. The battery, shown as a bar on the left, lasts 80 seconds. When it drops below 1/3, it turns red, displays a low battery warning, and emits an audio alert. This is essentially the drone's only limitation. In a straight line, the drone can travel roughly 670 meters in those 80 seconds. For example, in Conquest, on Operation Firestorm, you can fly from the NATO spawn almost all the way to the point A. On Siege of Cairo map, you can even fly to the enemy spawn and back. The drone has very low HP. A single sniper shot will destroy it at any range, or it may take 2 to 4 hits depending on the weapon. The drone is quite big and it's extremely easy to spot, especially on open maps with no buildings or trees for cover. And it's not particularly fast or agile, so shooting it down isn't difficult. If an enemy sniper spots your drone, it becomes visible to the entire team. That's why map knowledge is key to using it effectively. Also keep in mind that the drone is very noisy, so it's hard to stay unnoticed. No matter how chaotic the battlefield is, the drone's buzzing sound is always noticeable, and the closer it is, the louder it gets. By default, the drone uses thermal vision, but you can switch to normal vision by pressing T, which can be useful in certain situations. Now let's talk about the drone's main purpose: spotting enemies. Depending on the distance, the drone can spot enemies either automatically or manually using the Q key. Without zoom, enemies are automatically spotted within 80 meters, as long as they are within that radius. With 4x zoom, right mouse button, this range increases to 200 meters. Spotted enemies remain marked for 8 seconds, and of course, they cannot be spotted through smoke. There is also a useful feature I call passive spotting. You don't need to constantly control the drone. If you leave it aimed at a specific area, it will continue spotting enemies there until the battery runs out. This makes it perfect for monitoring key locations while you focus on something else. In thermal mode, the drone can detect all enemy gadgets, supply bags, recon drones, AOD bots, all types of mines, anti-vehicle, acoustic, tripwire, and EOD bot mines. C4, motion sensors, deploy beacons, claimers, of course portable mortars and intercept systems. And most importantly, it can destroy them. Within 50 meters, enemy gadgets glow red and can be destroyed through the walls from up to 40 meters away using an electrical pulse. The pulse has a 3-second cooldown. When locked onto a gadget, you'll hear a pulsing sound and a continuous buzz. This means the drone has locked onto that gadget, and even if you move your aim away, it will still destroy that exact gadget. Now let's get to the most interesting and powerful use of the drone. I'm talking about detonating enemy explosives. That's why I always keep my distance from friendly mines, especially if I hear a drone buzzing. And when I'm in a tank, if I spot our mines nearby, I always destroy them, never drive over them. To successfully detonate enemy explosives on infantry or vehicles, they need to be within 2 meters. This applies to mines and C4. But when it comes to claymores, things work differently. When you detonate a claymore manually, it only deals minor damage. And when it's triggered using a Recon Drone, it deals virtually no damage at all. As you can see, the explosion cone is clearly visible, but there is no actual damage. So the best approach is to simply detonate claymores to clear the path for your teammates. Acoustic mines don't deal damage when detonated, as you can see from the tests. Tripwire mines can damage both vehicles and infantry, but to be lethal, the enemy has to be standing directly on them, but they rarely used, and precise timing is essential here. Of course, you shouldn't wait for the perfect moment when someone runs near the mine. If your team is pushing an objective, clearing mines is crucial for protecting vehicles, because only a drone can reliably detect all enemy explosives. Also watch for EOD bots, they often place hard-to-see mini-mines that can be easily spotted and destroyed by your drone. Here they are for comparison. Defusing enemy explosives is one of your main responsibilities as a recon. After clearing mines, your next priority should be deploy beacons to prevent enemy respawn. Then focus on grenade interception systems, supply bags, claymores and motion sensors. At the very beginning I mentioned that drones are especially useful at Hagental Base map. In one of my recent matches I used the drone constantly. Of course, I'm not saying it was the only reason we won, but it definitely made a significant contribution to our team's success. As you can see, in almost every area where the enemy team tried to hold their ground, my drone was destroying their grenade interception systems, supply bags and deploy beacons, so our team was able to gradually push them back and move forward. The key here is to keep destroying enemy gadget consistently. Yes, this playstyle can be a bit boring, but you don't need to use the drone the entire time. Just use it in the key areas where enemies are holding positions. Once they lose access to ammo, grenades and fast healing, their defense starts to collapse very quickly. And I'm sure you know how difficult it is for the attacking side on this map. Now let's move on to another combo, the Recon Drone and C4. But first, just out of curiosity, I tested whether you can place a claymore on a drone. Unfortunately, you can't, which is a shame, because that would have been hilarious. And the same goes for a laser designator. You can, however, place a sniper decoy on the drone, but as soon as it starts moving, it gets destroyed. As I said before, the drone's battery lasts 80 seconds. However, once you attach C4, it drains much faster. I tested it with different amount of C4 and found that the battery lasts about 16 to 17 seconds regardless of how many charges you use. Out of that time, around 4 to 5 seconds are spent placing the C4 on the drone. That leaves you with roughly 11 to 12 seconds of actual flight time. So the more C4 charges you use, the less time you have, because placing them takes up precious seconds. In general, the drone can travel nearly 90 meters with one C4, around 75 to 80 meters with 2 charges, and about 70 meters with 3 or 4 charges. Now let's talk about how the drone and C4 actually work. When the Recon Drone's battery runs out, it gets destroyed, but it doesn't just disappear, it creates a small explosion. And it's this explosion that detonates the C4 attached to it. The drone's own mini explosion doesn't deal any damage by itself. If you're targeting infantry, one C4 charge is actually enough. If you see a large group of enemies, you can use 2. The blast radius doesn't increase, but 2 charges will reliably deal little damage to anyone within about a 4-meter radius. It's important to know, a drone, whether it has C4 or not, doesn't take any damage on impact with infantry. So when it comes to hunting infantry, things get a bit more complicated. Timing is crucial here. You need to deliver the drone intact to the target, just as its battery is about to run out, so the C4 detonates when the drone is destroyed. And the drone also needs to be as close to the enemy as possible. But there is a catch. If an enemy shoots down your drone, even at point-blank range, the explosion is counted as theirs. Also keep in mind, friendly explosions can set off the C4 on your drone. When it comes to vehicles, you will need 3 C4 charges to destroy them, so using more than that is unnecessary. As you can see, if you fly the drone into a vehicle, it takes damage and is destroyed almost instantly, triggering the C4. That's essentially how this combo works against vehicles. In other words, the enemy vehicles is destroyed automatically. The drone crashes into it, gets destroyed, and the explosion from its destruction triggers the attached C4. You can try to get the drone close and manually detonate C4, but there is a high chance enemy infantry or a tank crew will notice the drone and either destroy it or move to safety. That's why I recommend simply ramming the drone into the vehicle. And again, don't forget that drones are very easy to spot. Flying in from the direction the tank is facing is usually pointless. Gunners are almost always on guard. Finally, let's talk about infinite drones. I bet you know how it can sometimes be difficult to get a supply back from a medic. Well, there is a solution. At the very start of the round, spawn as a medic at your base, then redeploy as a recon. The medic's kit will stay in a place for about 30 seconds. Pick it up, drop a supply bag whenever you need it, then switch back to your recon kit. And there you have it. Now you've essentially got an infinite supply of drones, since the supply bag will stay there for the entire round. This is especially useful in Conquest. In Escalation and Breakthrough, you will need to move around more, because the HQ boundaries shift as the round progresses. In Breakthrough you can often find a medic's kit in newly captured sectors, so just repeat the same process. That's everything I know about the Recon Drone. If I missed anything or you have questions, let me know down in the comments.